All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Sorry, it's a couple minutes late getting on here. I had to use the restroom real quick. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Just gonna make a little adjustment, then we'll get moving. All right. So if you're fairly new to office hours, just wanted to mention that I start answering the questions that are asked up to an hour before. So I see there was quite a few questions that were asked. Excuse me. Before 2 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're on here and you ask one of those questions, go ahead and just copy and paste your question back up there. Because what I try to do is try to answer questions for those who I know are going to be present, and those who are asking questions within the last hour are those who are most likely going to be here. So I'm going to start with Marilyn H. So if Marilyn H., you posted her question about 55 minutes ago. So if you posted your question before that and you're on here, then go ahead and just copy and paste it back in there, and it will get answered in order here. So Marilyn says, in using the stable fluid spine, my drives tend to go high and not much distance and not getting my weight through. Help. So it sounds like you may not be getting a proper weight shift to your lead side. You may be kind of hanging back, really trying to focus on getting that spine angled away. So what we really wanted to be doing is making sure that we're getting a proper weight shift to our lead side. Because what you're probably doing is hanging back and then swinging up on the ball, and probably not swinging up on the ball too much without getting that proper weight shift and not getting very much power from that. So we want to make sure that we're getting a good weight shift to our lead side, and then we're pushing that angle back. So we're getting our weight shift to our lead side. Our body is opening up. I'm getting pressure into that lead foot. I'm getting to my lead side. I'm pushing my angle back like that, and that's what's getting me to be in that angle. We're not getting in that angle by hanging back on our back foot. That's going to lead to some issues and a severe loss of power. Now, I don't know for sure if that's what you're doing, but that's what it sounds like. The only way for me to know for sure is for me to see your swing. And that leads me to a little plug about unlimited swing reviews. If you're interested in me taking a look at your swing, we do offer unlimited swing reviews. It's just a program that we have that's really, really cool. All you have to do is send in your swing, and I can give you specific advice on what to do. So if you're interested in that, I don't believe that I have spots available right now, but here soon we'll be opening up some spots. So if you don't see the spot available, just join that waiting list, and then you'll get notified next. You'll get notified whenever we open up spots. You'll be on a list of people that get notified first. It's still going to be first come, first serve, but if you don't go on that waiting list and I sell out to the waiting list, then you won't ever get a notification that spots are opened up. So make sure to join that waiting list. To get to that waiting list, to do that, all you have to do is go to the top of the video there, click the Learn More button, or you can always click Get a Review at the top of the screen there as well. You can do that from any page on the website. But as far as working on getting to your lead side, if that is in fact the issue, you're kind of hanging back, trying to get that angle by hanging back on your trail foot instead of getting that good weight shift, I'd recommend working on something that's called the step drill. The step drill is what's going to help you to force that weight shift to your lead side. It's actually found in several videos on the website. It's a very big drill, one that I recommend quite often. I think probably 95% of every office hours that I've ever done, I've probably mentioned this drill. So if you're someone who's been on the office hours before, you've probably heard me mention this. But basically with the step drill, what you're doing is you're starting with your feet together. You're starting with your feet together. And as soon as you start that swing going back, you're going to start pushing and shifting your momentum forward. You're going to be stepping forward to where your foot would normally be in the swing. And that's going to force you to get your momentum to your lead side and get you that proper feeling of the weight shift. Then once you start getting comfortable with that, then you'll do some practice swings where you're replicating that same kind of feeling that you just had, where you're getting that good weight shift to your lead side. So loading up, getting the weight shift to the lead side, and using that ground to open up the body. That's going to be the step drill. So to get to the step drill, one video that I really like where Clay shows the step drill, it's a video that's called How to Start the Downswing. I'd highly recommend that one. Like I said, it's in many other videos on the website as well. You can find it in the 20-minute distance fix. You can find it in the Stop Chunking and Topping course. There's all sorts of places that they can be found. But to find that video that I'm talking about, the how to start your downswing, it's the video, the number of the video is BR014. You can search that, or you can also just search the word downswing. And I believe when you search the word downswing, it'll be the 4th video down, BR014. I believe that's what it is. Let me double check that. I may have it confused with a different video. Let me double check that really quick. All right, so downswing. I'm just checking it on my account here real quick. Sorry about that. Yeah, it is. It's BR014. That's the one that we're looking for. So the video is called How to Start the Downswing Correctly. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little search window there. It says search this website, and it says search. You can click on that, and then you can search for that, and you'll get that drill. And I would work through that to get your weight shift to your lead side, and hopefully that will help. All right, so continue to get your questions on here, and we'll get them answered. Like I said, if you were on here and you posted your question before 2 p.m. Eastern time today, then it's most likely not going to get answered unless I run out of questions. And then at that point, I may go back and take a look at those. But until then, we'll be answering the questions in the order from where we're at now. So the next question is from Brian C. All right, so Brian C says, when I film my down the line shots, I notice that my torso dips forward towards the ball during the downswing. However, my spine angle from the front view is stable. Any suggestions on how to fix this? Someone mentioned lifting my toes during the swing to keep my weight on the back of my feet. That's not a bad advice. That can help you a little bit to stay on that. But I'd recommend something that's called the wall drill. So when you stand up out of your posture, what you're going to see with most tour players, and one thing to keep in mind is that when you look from the down the line view, you don't want to look at the down the line view as far as going up and down, because it's fine in the backswing to actually move away from the ball a little bit. So a lot of times in the backswing, you'll see a little bit of this. See how I'm moving just a little bit? That's completely fine. Now we don't want to see this. That's too much. It's going to be hard to be consistent when you're really pulling off that ball. But if you're just coming off that ball a little bit, an inch or two, that's completely fine. But what happens is if I have my camera situated from down the line here and I do that same little move, even if I'm lowering in the backswing, it's going to look like I'm staying level. It may even look like I'm standing up. And the reason is because I'm getting a little bit closer to the camera. So the camera kind of fools you a little bit. So you want to look at that from the face on view. So what you're going to see as far as raising and lowering in the swing, we're talking vertical movement of the head in the golf swing. What you're going to see is in tour players is you're going to see how they lower about 1 to 3 inches in the backswing. You will not see a single tour player that raises their head above where they were at address in the backswing. I haven't ever seen one. I've looked at hundreds of tour player swings, and I've never seen anybody do that. So basically what I've always seen is anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of lowering from that top of the swing position. Every now and then you'll see someone who stays pretty level, but for the most part, every tour player is lowering as they go up to the back. So if your hips are moving toward the ball in the backswing, or even in the downswing, this applies to the downswing as well. If your hips are moving toward the ball in the downswing, then, or at any point in the swing, you're going to typically have to stand up to counterbalance that, right? So if you stand up to counterbalance it, then that's going to create a host of issues. You're going to most likely flip the club, because when you stand up to stay in balance, because if my hips are moving toward the ball and I stay bent over, what's going to happen? I'm going to fall on my face. Whereas if I, stay in my posture and I have my backside going out more this way, I have to bend over more to stay in balance. So that's what we want to do. So if you get to a position where you are standing up out of the backswing and the shoulders are kind of leveling out, we need to make sure that we're kind of pushing our hip, like almost as if we're standing against a wall here. That's why I mentioned the wall drill. When you are going up to the top, you want to feel like your back pant pocket is up against the wall, or even your outside pant pocket here, your front pant pocket. That may be a good feeling to feel like that's getting pushed up against the wall as well. And then the downswing, as you come into impact, you want to feel like the other pant pocket is going in there. Now, in the backswing, that's an easy thing to fix because that's just pushing and lowering in the backswing. The downswing, it gets a little bit more complicated because a lot of times what happens is that when your hips move toward the ball in the downswing, it's usually a reaction to the position of the club. So let me explain what that means. If you are steep with this club, and again, I mentioned this a lot in office hours, so if you've been in my office hours before, you've probably seen this. But if you are steep in the downswing, so what steep means, if you're looking from down the line and you see this club, if you draw a line straight down from this club, when your lead arm is about parallel to the ground in the downswing, so that's going to be about right here, you draw a line straight down to the ground. You use an app like V1 Golf or something like that you film your swing with. But if you draw that line straight down to the ground, if that's inside the golf ball, you are considered steep. Ideally, we'd like that to be a little bit outside the golf ball, that line. And the reason is that when you are steep, the club is off plane. The plane is like right here. So what you have to do is you have to make a compensation to get that club to come back down on plane. Either that, or you're going to continue to come over the top, or you might stick the club right in the ground, right behind the golf ball. And intuitively, most players aren't going to do that. Some players are going to swing over the top, and that's a whole other issue. But what a lot of players do is they will stand up. And when you stand up, that lifts the handle. When you lift the handle, that drops the club head, and now the club head's back on the plane. But the problem is that we're standing up out of our posture. And when we stand up out of our posture, what do? We have to flip the club to get to the golf ball, release that club early, which we know from the Top Speed Golf system is not something that we want to do. If we want good compression and good solid contact at the golf ball, we want to be releasing that club out in front. So what you may need, if you're standing up in the backswing, what I would first work on is that wall drill, getting that backside on that wall and bending over more as you're going up the top. Like I said, you're going to see most tour players look at this from face on. You're going to see most tour players lowering about 1 to 3 inches in the backswing, and in the downswing, they're lowering the first part of the downswing. They're lowering another 1 to 3 inches. So in order to do that, you have to have this club shallowing out in the transition area, and that's going to be the move course. The move course is all about shallowing out the club, getting that club beyond plane. Because now, if I get this club, if I'm up here, and then as I'm coming down to this position, I've got this club in a nice shallowed out position. I got the butt end of the club pointing a little bit outside the golf ball. Now, I don't have to make any sort of compensation to get this club to come on plane. All I have to do is rotate into contact, staying in my posture or even lowering a little bit, and that's going to allow me to get the best golf shot. So the wall drill you can find on the website. You can just search for a wall drill or just search the word wall. You can find it just like I talked about earlier. On the upper right-hand corner, there's a little search box there. Type the word wall, W-A-L-L. You'll find that wall drill if it's a backswing issue. If it's a downswing issue from the club being steep, and that's just one of the possibilities that could be going on there. There could be other things. That's the most common thing. Is the club being steep. So I would look at your swing from down the line as well. Draw that line from the shaft coming down. And if you see that shaft in a steep position, you're going to want to work through the move course. So the easiest way to get to the move course is to go up to the top of the page there, click the house icon. There's a little tiny house there. That's going to take you to the home page. On the home page, if you scroll down, you'll see where it says Top Speed Golf System Course Progress. Below that is a list of all of the courses on the website, and the move is one of those courses. There's 20 plus courses on the website. The move is the one you're looking for, and that's going to get you to where you're shallowing out the club. So work on the move, and that's going to help you to stay in your posture. Now, like I said, if you're not coming down steep and your hips are moving toward the ball, there's a host of other issues. You can try to work on the wall drill just for the downswing as well and see if that helps. But there's too many things there for me to go through. I could go probably on and on for an hour about all the things that could be going on. But if you want me to pinpoint those things and see exactly what's going on, I'd recommend signing up for unlimited swing reviews, because that way you can send me a video of your swing. I can see exactly what's going on, and I can tell you exactly what you need to do to get on the right track and to start staying in your posture and compressing the ball a lot more. So, like I said, I unfortunately have a limited number of students that I can work with. There are only so many hours in the day. So I wish I could work with as many as I possibly can, but there is a limited number of students that I can work with. And right now I am at full capacity with students, but I plan on opening up some spots soon. Holidays are getting over here, and my schedule is going to be opening up a little bit. So be on the lookout in your email for an opportunity to sign up for swing reviews. Probably in the next few weeks, you should be able to get some spots opened up. If you want to be on the list of people that gets notified first when my swing review spots open up, or Robin's spots as well, he also does our unlimited swing reviews. And again, he has a limited number of people he can work with as well. If you want to be on that list, you need to go to the page and join that waiting list. So above the video here, you'll see where it says learn more. If you click on that, learn more about working with Top Speed Golf instructors. If you click on that, if you click on that, that's going to take you to the swing review page. And you can also see a little bit about what swing reviews are all about. And then from there, you can join the waiting list. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page there, you'll see Robin's profile and you'll see my profile. And then you'll see where it says no spots available, join waiting list. Or it says something like that. Go ahead and click on that waiting list. So that way you're on the first people to get notified when spots become available. And, once we sell out all the spots, then we don't send out any more emails. So we send out emails to the waiting list first, and then it's first come, first serve of people on that list. And then after that, we open it up to everyone else. So be sure to join that if you're serious about joining the swing reviews. All right. So Thomas O says, "Hi Q. As you recommended, I downloaded the app for the video on iPhone. It's a great and reveals lots. My head moves out of the circle on my downswing and sways a bit. How do I get my head stable through the swing?" So again, let's talk about a little bit of head movement throughout the swing and what's okay, what's not okay, and so on and so forth. So this idea that our head is completely still throughout the swing is false. The head is not completely still throughout the swing. Now, we don't want it moving way all over the place. It's going to move some. So as I mentioned earlier, a tour player, their head is typically going to move down 1 to 3 inches in the backswing. And in the backswing, it's also typically, it's either going to stay pretty still, as far as horizontal movement this way, or it may move an inch or two this way. So oftentimes you'll see a tour player who can move 2 inches this way with their head in the backswing and 3 inches down with their head. So it might look something like this, where they're going in the backswing and they're going lower and they're going more a little bit this way as they're loading up. That's completely fine. If you were to draw a circle around my head here, my head would be moving down in that way. That's completely fine. You also see some tour players whose heads just move down 1 to 3 inches. And you'll see some tour players whose heads don't really move down very much, but move a little bit this way. You'll see some that stay completely still, but most tour players, especially the most powerful players, like your Justin Thomas, your Rory McIlroy, your Dustin Johnson, you're going to see their head, Brooks Koepka, you're going to see their head moving down and maybe a little bit toward the trail side in the backswing. Now in the downswing, you're going to see that head start to move forward a little bit, and it's going to continue to move down. So the head's going to move forward an inch or two, sometimes a lot more, depending on the player, depending on how much that player has moved their head back in the backswing. But it's also going to move 1 to 3 inches in the beginning of the downswing. Now, when you're going to see the head of a tour player or a really good player be completely still, is about halfway down in the downswing to impact, and a little bit through impact is typically where you're going to see that. So you're going to see movement down and back, in the backswing, and then movement forward and down to about this point in the downswing. And then from here, you'll typically see that head stay completely still to impact and then through impact. Now, some players you'll see as they'll come down here, and some players you'll see if they're getting really, really low in the downswing, some players you'll see as they come into impact, they'll come up just a little bit and then stay through there. But this just, I mean, go on YouTube. You mentioned that you downloaded the app. I assume you downloaded V1 Golf. They have tour model swings that you can look at on there. Draw the lines. Draw a box around their head. Draw a line on top. Now, hopefully you can find one where the camera is completely still, because obviously if the camera's moving around, it's going to tell you a little different story. But try to find one where the camera is completely still. What you can do to make sure that it's completely still is to draw a line on something, or draw a line, vertical line, whatever it is, on something in the background that you know is not moving. So if it's like a swing from a tournament or something like that, there'll likely be like a post there or something like that you can draw a line on to see if it's moving or not. But that's what I'd recommend, just to make sure that it's not moving. But take a look there. Draw lines around their head. Make a square around their head. I'm not a big fan of the circle because it's kind of hard to tell sometimes with the circle. But if you draw vertical and horizontal lines, you can see exactly in that axis which way that they're moving. So whether they're moving up, they're going above that horizontal line, and if they're moving off of it, they're moving into that vertical line. So that's what I really recommend doing. That's typically what I do when I take a look at it. But take a look at a lot of tour players. Just look at a bunch of them. Take 10, 15 minutes and just look at a bunch of them, and that'll tell you kind of what the head movement is all about. Now, what we don't want to have happen is we don't want to have where we are really moving off the ball like that. That's an issue. And that's an issue if your spine not being stable. Because really, if your spine is stable, your head's going to be stable too. Your head is attached to your spine, right? So if you're keeping this spine nice and stable, this head is going to stay nice and stable as well. So ideally, what we want to do is get nice and angled away at address. About 6 to 8 degrees is what Clay talks about in the Top Speed Golf system. And then as we go up to the top of the swing, we want to remain nice and angled away. Now, we can remain nice and angled away and move way off the golf ball, which we don't want to do. If that's what's going on, you'll feel that weight on the outside of your foot. A lot of times that turns into a reverse pivot. Very rarely do you see someone come off the ball and keep their spine angle. They're almost always doing something like that and leaning toward the target. So that's obviously something that we don't want to do. But make sure that you're nice and angled away at address. You remain nice and stable up to the top. And we don't want to move a ton of inches off the ball, but if you are moving way off the ball, then most likely what you're going to feel is you're going to feel that pressure on the outside of your foot. So feel that pressure on the inside of your foot, and then also feel like someone's standing here with a little poker or something like that. And if you slide your hips into that, it's going to hurt, right? So we want to feel like we're pushing our hip back instead of sliding the hips forward. So get those hips to turn instead of slide. If you're really having trouble from a mobility standpoint of doing that, then angle the foot out a little bit. If I angle this camera down a little bit, what I'm talking about here, and I apologize for the mess over here, but what I'm talking about is at address, instead of situating with your feet completely dead square like this, open up that foot, and that's going to help you to turn. Because when you turn back, or maybe you're sliding, maybe you're doing something like that, it might be because you have an internal rotation issue in your hip. When you rotate your hips, your leg is internally rotating in your hip. So if you have an issue with your leg internally rotating, I actually do. So I have to angle my foot out a little bit to compensate for that. So I like to set up with my feet pretty much flared out quite a bit. And that helps me to get my maximum range of motion here so that I can rotate back and through. So that's what I'd recommend doing, turning that foot out and then pushing down and out away from you. And that's going to push that hip back. So that would be first. And then if you're getting a lot of slide in the downswing, so a lot of times if you slide in the backswing, you're going to slide in the downswing too. So if you're getting here and you're in a great position at the top, you're lowering, and you're maybe just moving a little bit off the ball. But in the downswing, you get into this area where you're really sliding forward a lot. I'm hitting my screen here, where you're really sliding forward a lot. That's a compression line issue. That's one of the pieces of the Top Speed Golf system. So if you remember right from the Top Speed Golf system, the compression line is the line that goes from our lead ankle here to our hip to our shoulder. We want that to be in a nice straight line, and we want it to be slightly angled away from the target. So if you're really sliding forward and your spine is getting to where is leaning toward the target instead of leaning away from the target, what you're going to end up with is a lot of head movement in that direction. So you see, I'm exaggerating, but you can see here I'm really sliding forward. My compression line is leaning forward a lot. My spine angle is leaning forward a lot. Ideally, what we want to have is we want to come in, we're getting that weight on the lead foot, we're pushing back, and our head is remaining steady as we're coming through. And now you can see compression line, ankle, hip, shoulder, all in a straight line there, slightly angled away from the target, just like we want it. So you may need to work through the compression line course as well. So we got a lot of head movement. Look at the stable fluid spine course, and you also may want to look at the compression line course to see, at what point in the swing is the head movement, is it too much? But remind yourself that, hey, the head needs to move down and back a little bit. It can move back a little bit in the backswing, and then forward and down in the downswing is typically what you're going to see. Now, if you're very, very stable with the head and it doesn't move around anywhere, that's completely fine as well. It's just going to be a little bit harder to get some forward shaft lean because you're going to be too high. You're going to be too upright for your hands to get low enough to push that handle forward and get forward shaft lean. That's not what the best players in the world are doing, but you can still play great golf if you don't have a ton of forward shaft lean, if you're not getting a ton of compression on the ball. So just keep that in mind. But stable fluid spine course and the compression line course are going to be where you want to go. But keep in mind that the head is not completely still. It can move around a little bit. That's completely fine. All right, so let's keep moving on here and get some more questions answered. And like I said, if you got questions, go ahead and post them on there. Looks like we got 2 more questions here from Tom D. If you got a question, it'll be the next one that's answered after Tom D's questions. Otherwise, I will go back and start answering questions that were posted before Marilyn posted hers. So let me go back up to the list here. So Tom D says, I've been told I lose control of the club at the top of the swing like Bobby Jones. Is it just a matter of gripping tighter in the left hand, which feels too tight, or is there another fixed check that can be used? So I'm not really sure what you mean by losing control of the club, but there's all kinds of things that be going on. I'd really need to see your swing to know for sure what's going on there. But a lot of times people lose control of the club because of the way that they grip the club. Part of it is a little bit of grip pressure. If you hold the grip way, way, way too lightly, then you aren't going to have very good control of it. But part of it is the way that people put their hands on the grip. So oftentimes what I see what people do is they'll have the club kind of in their fingers like this. So they'll have it like this, and they'll have what we call a long thumb. And so you can see my thumb is stretched across the grip there. So they'll have a grip that's kind of like that. And when you're like that, what's good about it is that you can get a lot of hinge. But the issue is that I don't have a lot of security with this grip. I don't have a lot of coverage. I'm just kind of gripping it in my fingers here. So that can pose an issue. That may be why you're losing control of the club. So what we want to do is have something that's called a short thumb. So we want to be somewhere between a putting grip and this kind of grip. So a putting grip is held completely in the lifeline of your hand. The lifeline of your hand, if I were to bring my pinky and my thumb together like that, you can see how there's a crease forming in my hand. That's the lifeline of your hand. With the putter, you want that to be like that because that lines that putter shaft up with your forearms. That's ideal what you want to do with the putter. And with the putter, we don't want to have any hinge of the club. We want it to be nice and solid with the wrist, and that's what allows us to do that. It also allows us to get our eyes over the ball so we can get a nice eye line on there so that we can see the line of the putt. But what we want to have is a happy medium between being able to hinge the club and be able to have maximum security on the club. So there's a little bone right here on your wrist, right there on the outside of your wrist. There's a little bone right there. We want that club to be just basically almost resting, and depending on how thick the pads are on your hand, like everyone's hand's a little bit different. My hands are maybe a little bit larger than normal. So my hand might look a little bit different than your hand. If you have very large hands or small hands, it may look a lot different. So keep that in mind. If you have really long fingers, it may look a lot different. So everyone's all shapes and sizes. So this may not look the exact same as you, but this still applies. There's a little bone right there, and you want to have that club, right in that area there. And then you'll have it almost like it's a little trigger right here, right? So you have that going up right there, like a little trigger, and then you spread your fingers out onto the grip there. And now you can see I have a short thumb. But look what I can do. I have great coverage on this club. My fingers are spread out nicely onto this club. I have great security with it. Look what I can also do. I can also hinge the club as much as I need to. I can hinge that club very, very nicely. Whereas if I had it in the lifeline of my hand, like a putting grip, I can't really hinge that as well. So we want to find that happy medium. So I check your grip and make sure that you have that nice short thumb on there. That's really the biggest reason why I see people lose control of it, is because of that. And it also might be because you're trying to grip the club so lightly that you don't really have control of it. You're going to need to put some tension, some force into this handle to be able to control it. It's not completely like, throughout the swing, like you're holding it like a tube of toothpaste or a baby bird. I've heard that sometimes, where people say, you want to hold it all the time like a baby bird. And that's just not the reality of what's going on. At address, absolutely. There's not a lot of force you have to put into the handle at address because you're just holding the club. But when you start that swing and, you got to put some force into that handle, otherwise the club's just going to fall out of your hand or you may lose control of it. So you want to feel that force mostly in these first three fingers of your lead hand. So for the lefties out there, we're talking to be your lead hand. Same thing. I always try to say lead and trail when talking about this stuff, so I'm not confusing the lefties. But first finger, this is going to be your pinky finger, ring finger, and middle finger of your lead hand. That's where we want to feel a lot of the pressure in the grip. And that trail hand is going to have kind of that lighter pressure throughout the swing. You're going to feel more pressure here as you're going up the top because that club's really going to be pushing into your hand, or it should be as you're coming down. But we don't want to feel the pressure so much that we are casting the club. And these first, your thumb and your your pointer finger, if you're feeling it a lot there, that means that you're most likely casting the club, and that's going to be an issue there. So you want to feel it in that first three fingers, get that grip right, and that'll most likely take care of the control issue that you might have. Now, there could be other things going on. It's impossible for me to know really without seeing your swing. It may even be impossible for me to know without seeing your swing in person, because a lot of times these things are difficult to see, period, unless I'm there with you. So keep that in mind. But I would try those two things I talked about. So the pressure that you're putting into the handle, try to feel you're going to need to put more pressure into the handle, especially with these first three fingers of the lead hand. And then make sure that your grip is good. Make sure that you're holding it with a short thumb. It's almost like if I were to hand you a pen or a tea or something like that. If I'm going to hand you this like that, that's how I'm going to have my hand, right? That's how you're going to be on the grip. So the grip's coming through just like that. I don't want to hand it to you like that, right? And I don't want to hand it to you completely like that. I want to have a nice short thumb, like I was handing something to you. So that's kind of the feeling that you want to have. So check that, make sure that you have grip security, but you're also able to hinge the wrist. So going on here, we have Ted D says, when I shallow the club on my downswing, I'm not casting. I often block or shank the ball. If I try to correct my bowing my wrist, I hit a low hook. Any suggestions? So it sounds like you're probably swinging way too much from the inside. When you swing too much from the inside, that hosel is moving toward the ball. And you're also, if your face is in line with your path, it's going to end up in the block. And you're talking about when you bow the wrist, you hit the hook, right? Well, your face is moving your club head is moving out too much. And then the face is square. the ball is going to hook because the face is closed to the path. So what you probably need to do is you need to get this club working more down on plane. You may need to feel like you're coming over the top a little bit. So in your swing, if you look at your swing from down the line here, and that's going to be this camera view where we're shooting right down my toes, what you're likely going to see is that club is working inside of the hands in the downswing. And that's working from in to out. When I do that, like I said, the hosel is working toward the golf ball. So we want to get this club working more just inside the hands or right on top of the hands. That means you're going to be pretty close to on plane or just a little bit from the inside, which would be ideal for distance and compression. So getting that club to work a little bit from the inside. It's okay if you get a little bit from the outside. You know, that's going to be more of a fade type swing, and that's completely fine. But we really want to get this club not working so much from the inside and getting it to work more on plane. So what I'd recommend doing is just doing a couple drills where you go up to the top and then I come down here and I feel like the club head is coming more down outside of my hands. So I feel like I'm swinging, you know, right now, if you're a right-handed golfer, you're swinging toward first base, right? So I want you to feel like you're swinging toward third base, like you're trying to hit a pull down the line, trying to hit a double down the line, down the third base line. That's what I kind of want you to feel like. And if you hit a big old pull, that's great. That means that you were able to change what you're doing. And now all you have to do is ease off of that a little bit. So instead of, if you try to hit it down the third base line, you actually pull one a bunch, then maybe try to feel like you're hitting it toward the shortstop, where the shortstop would be playing. Ted, I hope you understand the baseball references, but basically it's just a little bit less, you know, over the top is what you're going to feel like. A lot of what golf is just adjusting your feeling to get the desired result that you want. You're trying to hit a straight shot, but the reality of what's going on is you're hitting shanks, blocks, and hooks. So what we need to do is adjust your feeling to get the desired result that you want. The issue is you're swinging too much from the inside. So that feels like it's on plane for you. That feels like it's perfectly on plane. So what you need to feel like is that you're swinging way over the top to actually get this club to be working down on plane again. So that's what I'd recommend doing. Feel like you're swinging toward third base. If you actually hit some really nasty pulls or slices, then all you have to do is ease off of that feeling a little bit to get that ball to straighten out. And then once you get it to where it's kind of straightened out, I would actually intentionally hit pulls and pushes back and forth, because what that's going to do, it's called variability training or interleaving practice. And what that's going to help you do is it's going to help you to hone that in. It's going to give you a better awareness of where the middle is. And it's also going to help you understand what you need to do when you make adjustments, because our feel is constantly changing. From day to day, we're going to have different swing thoughts. We're going to have different feelings of what's going on. You may wake up tomorrow and pull everything, and you may feel like you're hitting it straight, but you're pulling everything. That's just the reality of what's going on. So that's what I'd recommend doing. Get out there, adjust your feeling, get the desired result, and that should help you out quite a bit. Now, if you still get the shanks, one thing that you can do is you can actually intentionally try to hit the ball off the toe. Because again, right now, the club's working a lot from the inside, most likely. And if that is the case, and you start swinging more on plane, you're probably going to be a lot easier to get that strike in the center. But if you still are hitting those shanks and you actually have that club working down on plane, then you may just need to adjust your feeling as it pertains to the face. So if you're trying to hit it in the center of the face, but you're actually hitting it here, you probably guessed it. What do you need to do? Let's try to hit it out on the toe. Line up as you normally would, but try to hit it out here on the toe. What will likely happen is you'll likely get that strike more in the center of the face. And if you still hit it on the heel, then just exaggerate it even more. You may need to feel like you're coming in way too much. You may need to feel like you're coming in like from this way and actually missing the golf ball. I know it may seem crazy to try to hit a bad shot to hit a good one, but right now you're trying to hit a good one and you're hitting a bad one. So it's kind of like you got to do the opposite, right? So if you need to do that, then do that. But if you try to hit it on the toe, you actually hit it off the toe, then just ease off of that feeling a little bit. And if you're trying to hit off the toe and you get a bunch that keep coming off the toe, then at that point you're essentially calibrated. You're trying to hit off the toe, and that's the reality of what's going on. So at that point you're calibrated. You can start trying to hit the ball in the center of the face again. So again, keep the questions coming. Looks like we got a couple more questions We got one from John G here. So John G says, any thoughts on the Blue Strike training device? I've seen it advertised a lot lately. So I've never used the Blue Strike. Again, I'm not even 100% familiar with what that is. I've heard of it, but I'm not. Let me do a quick Google search of it, and I'll take a look at it. Like I said, I can't give you a full on, review of it. Blue Strike Golf. Let's see what we got. Okay, I think I've seen this before. Yeah, B1 Blue Strike. Let me look at it. So I think this is the thing that has the little. Yeah, it's got the little thing on it. I mean, I could see how it can be helpful. Like I said, I've never used one. It can be helpful to get you kind of in a good impact position. But here's the thing. I don't know how much this is. This is probably, I would guess, $100 or so. One thing I'd mention is that about over any training device that I've ever really seen, other than maybe like a swing speed device, like a swing speed radar, your $100 is going to be better served getting a lesson from an instructor. If you're looking to spend money to improve your golf game, I don't know of really any training aids that are worth more than a lesson with a good instructor. So if you think about it, if you're looking to spend $100 on improving your golf game, you're going to get more out of an entire month of unlimited swing reviews with me than you are going to get out of this B1. I can tell you that right now for sure. But it can help you in a sense of it's going to give you feedback. So this is kind of the middle tier of training aids. So basically, training aids are split into 3 tiers. Some training aids are actually physically putting you in positions, like they're forcing you into positions. So that would be something like the swing jacket thing, where you can't move your arms at all and you swing. That would be something like the contraptions that kind of force you to be in a position, but don't actually allow you to learn that position. So those training aids are almost useless. The only way that they are helpful at all is to actually help you kind of understand the position that you should be in. But once you actually get that, then throw it to the side and you got to do it on your own. So it doesn't actually teach you the way that learning positions in golf. It doesn't work like you can put that swing glove thing on and you use it and you just swing with it over and over, and then your arms automatically know to be like this. That's not the way it works. You have to actually learn to swing the club freely without anything to be able to do that. So any training aid that forces you to be in a kind of position, those are pretty much on the useless side, I would say. Complete and total waste of your money. And then there's the second tier of training aids. Now, these are training aids that looks like, I would say, the B1 Blue Strike would fall into, where it's giving you feedback during the action. So it's got that little thing that comes down on it that you feel up against your arms and things like that. And it's got the little clicker thing on it and things like that. But what you can do with it is you have to learn from what you have to be able to do it with the club eventually, right? So it's good to help you kind of get a sense of what you're doing. But again, you got to be able at some point to be able to put that thing down and do it on your own. So I would put it in that tier. So I wouldn't say it's useless. It does have probably some merit to it to be able to help you understand the position that you should be in, kind of the impact position as you're coming through. If you're really having trouble getting that, if you want my opinion on the best middle tier training aid out there, the Impact Snap is the best one that I know of. That's going to be one. It's a very similar type thing. I actually like the arm coming out a little bit better than the little flexible string kind of thing that you may not be able to feel very good. Again, I've never used this B1 Blue Strike, so I really don't know for sure how it feels or anything like that. But I've used the Impact Snap quite a bit, and I think it's great. What's really good about the Impact Snap is that it's not a full club. So a lot of people look at that as a good thing. And if you want to hit balls with a training aid, that's completely fine. But really, we need to learn how to hit balls with our clubs, not with a training aid. What a training aid can do is to help you kind of learn a little bit with that. So what I like about the Impact Snap is that it's about this big. It fits in your golf bag. You can take it on the road with you. You can do it in the house. It's wintertime right now. A lot of places you can't do anything outside, right? So being able to work on this in the living room, and you don't even necessarily have to use it for what the Impact Snap is meant for. You can use it as just kind of to mock a club and swing it back and forth when you're working on other things. It's got some weight to it, so it feels similar to what a club would feel like. So that's what I like. But yeah, if you're looking for a training aid that's that middle tier, that you can work on in the wintertime and things like that. If you have the space in your house, you could kind of work on it with the Blue One Strike. But also, if you go to their website, I believe it's impactsnap.com. If you use the promo code CBallard, you can get, I believe it's 5 or 10% off. We do get a little tiny kickback from that, but listen to me, it's not enough for me to sell out and say the Impact Snap is you should go buy one. I'm saying that because I think it's actually a good training aid as far as the middle tier is concerned. I still think that getting lessons from an instructor is worth more than the Impact Snap, because the Impact Snap, I believe, is about $100 minus whatever discount you might get. I'm guessing with shipping, it's probably just giving you free shipping for the most part. But I still think a lesson, a month of unlimited swing reviews is worth more than that, in my opinion. But yeah, definitely. There's that, and then there's the third level of training aids that makes these are the best training aids out there. And the reason they are is because it forces you to actually, learn it yourself. If you can actually learn the movement on your own with the help of the training aid, then that's going to be the best one. So some examples of what that might be, and a lot of you already have this training aid, that's going to be your phone. Your phone is one of the best training aids out there because it takes video. And a lot of phones these days, they have slow motion camera on them. So you can actually look at your swing in slow motion. So V1 Golf, all these things, these are the best training aids. So you make a swing, you have to do everything yourself and figure out the actions. Then afterwards, you're getting the feedback and you're looking at your swing on video. And maybe you thought you were shallowing out the club, or maybe you thought that you were getting a big shoulder turn, but you're only getting to here. You can look on video and see that, because feel is often not real, right? So you can look on video and see that for yourself, and then you'll know, okay, I need to feel like I'm getting a lot more shoulder turn. I need to feel like my shirt buttons are really turning away from the target, and that the tag on my back of the shirt, or maybe I need to feel like my belt buckle is moving away from the ball a ton to be able to get a big shoulder turn. So the camera is one of the best training aids out there. Also, I understand that not everybody can afford a TrackMan or a Flight Scope or a GC Quad or something like that. But again, that's something where you perform the action, it gives you feedback and lets you know what's going on. What I will say, I think that if there's a training aid out there that I think everyone should have, number one is camera. So pretty much everyone already has that. A smartphone. Most of the phones out there have good enough cameras in them to be able to take video. And then secondly would be something to measure your club head speed. So a swing speed radar, a Swing Caddy 2, a ZEP. The most accurate ones that we've tested as far as swing speed are concerned are going to be your Swing Caddy 2 and your Swing Speed Radar. There's lots of other devices out there too. We haven't tested every single one, but those are the ones that we like the most. The Swing Caddy 2 is the most accurate one. So I do recommend that one. But as far as, if you're just looking, the good part about that one is that it's going to give you club head speed. It's going to give you ball speed. It's going to give you an estimated distance. I say that with emphasis because a lot of people don't like the swing caddy because they feel like it's inaccurate, because they feel like the distances are not accurate. It's an estimation based on the club head speed and the smash factor that you're getting with it, and the club that you're hitting. And I think it also plugs in like the atmosphere and stuff like that into it for to get into their algorithm to get you the distance. It can be off a little bit, so I don't take a lot of merit into the distance. It's just there for fun, I would say. But it's good to have the ball speed and the club head speed. And there's also some games you can play on it where it tells you like a specific number, like a distance that you have to get, and you have to try and get it. And I know it's going to be a little off, but that's a really good thing to do as well. But it's a little bit more expensive than the Swing Speed Radar. One of the detriments to the Swing Caddy 2 is that it gives you a lot of information, and some of the information you may not need. We actually used to use the Swing Caddy 2s for our clinics, but we found that people got too infatuated with the smash factor, the ball speed, the distance, and all that. And really, all we're focused on is club head speed. So if you're doing some speed training, when you're doing speed training, all you care about is club head speed. So if you can get that club head speed up, the more you get it up, the more you get comfortable with it, and the better the other stuff is going to become as well. So what the Swing Speed Radar does is it just gives you club head speed. It's a much more simple device. It just gives you the club head speed, and it flashes instantly right there, and you can see it very, very easily. So I like that one when doing speed training because it keeps you focused on the most important thing, which is the club head speed. So that's what I recommend. But other devices that we've measured, so things that attach to the club, things that attach to your glove, they're not actually reading the club head. It's reading the information from the shaft or from your hand. So it's going to be a little off compared to what may reality be. But we have found with these devices that it will tell you if you've made gains. So essentially what that means, let's say that you're using the ZEP, okay, and you go from swinging 90 miles per hour, it tells you you're swinging 90 miles per hour. You work on some speed drills and you get to 95 miles per hour, right? That's a difference of five miles per hour. But the reality might be that you started out at 97 miles per hour and you got up to 102. The difference is going to be the same. So we tested the ZEP against Flight Scope, which is a $20,000 machine, and very, very accurate machine. And that's basically what we saw. Now I'm not sure how off it was, but it was off. But the Swing Caddy and the Swing Speed Radar were pretty darn close on those. With usually the Swing Caddy 2 was either 0-1, sometimes 2 miles per hour off, and the Swing Speed Radar was 0-1, 2, sometimes 3 miles per hour off. It was just a little bit more off, but for the most part, that's pretty darn good for a $20,000 device versus a $100 device. That's pretty darn good. Something that's actually affordable. So those are the training aids that I really, really, really recommend. Anything that's where you have to perform an action and it gives you the information after the fact, that is the best training aid because it forces you to learn what you have to do. You're sending the neural pathways, and that's how you really improve is from doing that. So that's what I'd recommend. So Mike L says, referencing Tom D's, we got a couple more. Okay, so Mike L says, referencing Tom D's question, do longer fingers require thicker grips? Yeah, usually. Usually if you have bigger hands, a bigger grip is going to feel a little bit more comfortable for you. So yeah, something to give a try. But yeah, if you have longer fingers, bigger hands in general, thicker grips are most likely going to be more comfortable for you. But you may find a standard grip more comfortable. It's really, grips is more about how comfortable you are with it. So obviously, if you have smaller hands, a bigger grip is probably going to feel a little too large. And maybe having a junior grip or a standard grip is going to be the best thing for you. Whereas if you have bigger hands, it may feel more comfortable. So it's more about personal preference and comfort. It's most likely not going to make a huge difference in the way that you hit the ball and things like that. I've used anywhere from a standard grip to a jumbo grip and literally saw no change in the way that I hit the ball. It was all about kind of the way that it felt. And I feel more comfortable with basically a standard grip. That I feel like I have a little bit more mobility. The grip is bigger. You have a little, basically the idea is that you maybe have a little bit less mobility in the wrists, but it really doesn't make that huge of a difference. But I would just go for what feels the most comfortable for you. And so whenever you go somewhere that does grips, most likely they're going to have basically some clubs or just some shafts that have the grips on them. So what I'd recommend doing is just taking one of those and just kind of get a feel for it. They may even have some clubs that you can hit that have different clubs depending on where you go. But yeah, you may be able to actually hit some balls with a specific grip. But that's what I'd be looking at, is get something that feels the most comfortable for you. The grip is all about the comfort thing and allowing you to be able to do what you need to do with the club. All right. So James M says, Q, do you start the downswing with your shoulders or arms? That's kind of a trick question because it's really neither. The downswing, well, actually, technically, the downswing starts when the club switches directions, but it's mostly going to be in your feet. So the downswing starts with that weight shift and the hip first, and then it's basically from the ground up. So if you're asking what goes first, the shoulders or the arms, it's the shoulders because it's from the ground up. So when we get that downswing, that club's starting to switch directions, I'm putting pressure in my lead foot. That's getting my hips going, right? And then my hips going, that's getting my torso going. And then my torso are going, that's getting my shoulders going. And then my shoulders go, my arms are going, then my hands go, then the club goes. That's the sequence, the kinematic sequence of the downswing. That's where it goes. So if you're asking, do you start the downswing with your shoulders or arms? It's really neither. That's starting with the legs and the lower body, getting the hips rotating. That's where it starts. But if you're asking which one starts first, the shoulders or arms, it's the shoulders that starts first. It's from the ground up. All right, so we got a couple more minutes here and a couple more questions. So that should wrap it up for today. So James M says, or with the move of your left hip. Yep. So sorry, James, I didn't see the last part of your question until just now. So yeah, it's the movement of the lead hip, assuming you're right-handed. It would be the left hip if you are right-handed. So yeah, it's with this movement. Again, it's from the ground up. Sounds like you got it on the right track there. So Brandon S, and this will probably be the last question here. We got a couple minutes, just a couple minutes left. So Brandon S says, "Hey Q, finished the 20-minute distance fix a few months ago. Noticed lately not getting as much distance. Should I do distance training regularly?" Yes, do distance training as much as you can. You have to do things until they become second nature. If you just go through the program and you start easing off of things and not sticking with it, you may lose some. It's possible. Because you didn't take the time to really kind of fully ingrain it and make it second nature. It's like learning how to type. If anybody's been to my office hours, I make this analogy quite often. But basically, when you first started typing, right, you were looking at the keyboard, you were pointing and pecking, looking for every single letter because you didn't know where they all were. Then eventually you got to where, okay, I know where the T is, the S, the R. You were figuring out where all the common letters were, and maybe still struggling with the uncommon ones like the Z and the Q. Except for me, I knew where the Q was from the beginning. But basically, you kind of figure out where all those things are, and you get better and better. And then you learn how to put your fingers on the keyboard. Then you learn, each one of those fingers has an individual job to hit a specific key. And then you start getting faster and faster and faster. Think about how many hours it took for that to happen. That didn't happen overnight. That took hours and hours and hours and lots of mistakes and failures. Probably hit that backspace key quite a few times when you were doing that. So yes, I highly recommend that you do the distance training regularly. I would actually, with every single training session that you do, with every single one, I would, with the last 20 balls or so, I would do, if you go to the range, I would do some speed training. So I would look at your swing and see what's going on, see what piece. Usually when you go through the 20-minute distance fix, you're going to see what pieces helped you bump your speeds up the most. So I would look at your swing and where you stack up with those pieces. And you may have not taken the time to ingrain those pieces. Eventually you get to where when you're typing that you can just look at the screen and you don't even remember the letters or even the words that you type when you're typing a sentence. It just happens automatically. And that's what you want to get to whenever you're making any kind of swing change. So just going through the 20-minute distance fix and spending 20 minutes on a drill, that's going to get it for you right there. But for that to become fully ingrained in second nature, automatic, it takes some time and some repetition to do that. So highly recommend doing that, doing some time repetition. Take a look at your swing and see what's going on there. See what it looks like. Hopefully you save some videos from before and you can see, maybe this was your shoulder turn before. And then after you did the catapult drill, your shoulder turn was like this. And then you take a current video and all of a sudden your shoulder turns like this again. Well, then okay, I need to go work on the catapult drill a little bit. Or maybe you see you're kind of finishing on your back foot and not really getting to your lead side. Maybe that's a sumo step drill. You need to go work on that a little bit. Or maybe you see you're casting the club. Maybe before you gain some speed from generating some lag and now you're casting the club. Maybe you need to go work on some casting. So look at your video. Remember the things that you went through that helped you to increase your speed the most. Look at your swing on video to see where you might be lacking, and then go and work on those things. And I would say every time you go practice, take the last 20 balls or so and hit some shots, working on whatever it is and swinging as hard as you can. Get that neural adaptation, keep that neural adaptation going, and that's going to help you to go up and up and up and up and up. And hopefully you don't lose any along the way. At some point, you're most likely you're going to kind of hit a plateau and not really gain a lot, maybe gain a little bit here and there. But if you're kind of a newbie getting these gains, then you may see a pretty good increase for a while before you flatten out. So hopefully that helps. Thanks everybody for joining me today. We'll be back here tomorrow. It'll be Friday, so it'll be 9 a.m. Eastern. Wow, week's almost over. So thanks everybody for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.